Hey there, hope you're having a good day. Today, I've got a guide for you on the Act 5 boss. This guy, look, if you struggle with this boss, you are not alone. Many people have struggled with this boss because this is the first point in the game you're truly tested. It's going to be difficult to beat without dying a few times. And I'd say it's much more difficult for melee builds. So this guide is meant to help you beat this boss without dying as a melee character. So even if you're ranged, or if you don't mind using a few resurrection scrolls, this guide should still help you. I'm going to go over the boss's moveset, gearing requirements, and I'll give some general tips and advice for this fight. So let's get into it. The moveset is kind of complicated with this boss because he has a lot of different moves, initially very overwhelming, and his attacks become deadlier as his health gets lower and lower. So let's talk about each of his moves here. So he's got 6 types. He's got dashes, slashes, projectiles, orbs. He has a blizzard skill, and then he has a big screen-wide dodge minigame skill. Let's talk about the dashes first. These are probably the least concerning. They look worse than they are most of the time. He does leave a delayed AoE behind him, which you'll want to avoid, but usually when he dashes, you want to wait until he completes his dash and begins his next move before you use any kind of movement skill to get out of in front of him, right? You don't want to be in front of him because what'll happen is after he moves, he will track you, or in other words, he'll try to face towards you, and then he'll start another move. And so after that dash, wait a beat, then move so that you're not in front of him when he starts doing whatever his next move is. And let's talk about slashes. So one of the things he will follow up with are slashes. The wide slash that he does can be quite deadly because it carries a large area. And as his health gets lower, he does a different variation of this move, which is a wider area. And so the only safe place, if you're going to be anywhere near him, is directly behind him for this move. So if he starts, and you've got a good moment or two to see that this move is coming because he'll do his kind of wind up animation for it. You need to decide quickly if you can get behind him, because this is also a damage opportunity for you if you can. Otherwise, you need to run away to get out of range of it. So next are his projectile moves. He has a move that he does usually when you're at range where he kind of sends a ground wave of ice at you. That one doesn't seem that deadly. And the other projectile moves look really similar to each other, but there's one in particular that will one-shot you even if you are properly geared. And that is when he shoots all the projectiles in sort of a shotgun cone pattern, because you can get hit by more than one projectile. And even just one of those can nearly kill you. So that's one you have to watch out for. If you follow the advice of get to the side after the dash that I was talking about earlier, you should be able to survive this. So just keep that in mind, because that one projectile move can one-shot you pretty easily. So next, let's talk about the orbs. So these are not an issue if you manage them correctly. They move very slowly. It's best to have him shoot them all in one direction, and ideally you would make that direction toward a wall, like you're in between him and the wall as he's shooting them, and just let him fire all 3 rounds off, just so they don't take up the rest of the map and limit your escape options from his other moves, because he'll fire this off and then he'll go and he'll keep fighting you as those orbs kind of creep across the field. And if you didn't manage it correctly, that could just kill you, because you could get frozen and then you're as good as dead. His blizzard skill looks way worse than it is. This is actually one of the best damage windows you're gonna have, because the animation is a decent length and he's pretty vulnerable. Just watch out for, sometimes the AoE will appear under him, so just watch out for that, move out of the way. But for the most part, just the visual clutter of the blizzard is worse than what the skill actually does. So just try to keep calm and maximize that damage window. So now for the most panic inducing skill of this fight. And that's when he kind of teleports to the middle and he does these AoE attacks around him that cone out from him. And so you have to keep moving to safe spots. And below 50% health, he does it even faster. So you'll get hit a few times. If you gear correctly, you can survive this. If you stay calm, you can survive this. Try to stay close to him so that you can maximize your distance when you use a move skill to get to a safer area. And not only just stay calm, but don't panic. You don't have to keep moving. You can stay in one spot if he just happens to not shoot that thing at you, right? So if you're constantly moving, you're gonna miss out on damage. So try to keep a level head on that. And I know that's not the best advice because it's easier said than done, but you just need to practice this a few times. Okay, so let's talk about the most important part of this fight. Believe it or not, it's not necessarily the moveset, because you can learn that by doing this fight over and over. But if you don't have the right gear, if you don't have the right stats on your gear, this fight is virtually impossible. So let's talk about it, because this boss deals massive cold damage. Up to this point, you've been able to get by just equipping gear that's higher tier, or has more stats. This fight is actually going to require you to have the right stats on your gear. Those stats are cold resistance, reduced cold damage taken, which can appear on gloves, and then if you're using a shield, you want reduced elemental damage taken on your shield. You can also, I think it's the chest piece, get the freeze dodge chance. That can definitely save you. I'd consider that optional, but hey, if you get it, great. While getting those stats, be sure you are getting percentage and flat attack or spell damage on your weapon, meaning you want both percentage and the flat version of that. You want your desired element, whatever makes sense for your build, on your shoulders, and then you want HP wherever possible. So to demonstrate how essential these stats are, I did this run on a melee character, no jewelry, no belt, and only tier 14 vendor gear that I rolled to magic. That's it. Focusing on those stats, I was able to do this without dying. It can only get easier and faster with more stats. You may need to completely rebuild your character to do this fight. I did make a beginner's crafting guide, so if you're unsure how to get started with crafting, go watch that. I hope it helps you. But you need to really look at your gear and make sure you've got the right stats. Otherwise, in my opinion, this fight is virtually impossible. So, lastly, let me give you just some general tips on this fight. So first of all, bring at least 2 movement skills, because evading attacks is essential even if you have the right gear. Don't hesitate to use those instant HP potions. because I mean, late game, the ones you get early game are completely useless. So just use them. Next tip, take a breath. You know, you can step away. There's a really big arena here, fighting area. You can run away from him and catch your breath. Like, heal up, and he's gonna chase you, of course. But I mean, you've got a lot of room. So don't feel like you need to be high stress the whole time. This is a marathon, not a race. If you try to go into this and say, I'm gonna kill him before he kills me with that kind of attitude, he's gonna win. Like, you're not gonna win that. Another tip is to try this fight a few times before you use any resurrection scrolls. You're gonna save a lot of them by doing that. And those are actually pretty valuable. You don't just wanna use a ton of them. You wanna use as few as possible. And lastly, go level a little more. I mean, this fight, it's a huge difficulty spike, and it is way more difficult than previous parts of the game. It is beatable. So go level, find better gear, and that's what I've got. So hey, let me know if this guide helped you, or if you have any tips that helped you beat this boss. Drop them in the comments for other people. And I hope you have a good day.